So if we could just walk through and leave out the parts you can't talk about, of course, but this happens at the beginning of the Biden administration, which is close to the beginning of your administration. All these foreign nationals start showing up in New York. They have no money, they have no jobs, they have no place to stay, and you have to deal with them. And the taxpayers here have to deal with them. So you go to Washington. What were those meetings like?
Sharing with them that this was a problem.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke with Julie Chavez, is one of the personnel, Perez, another personnel. I spoke with the president himself. I spoke with the president first, then the president came here to New York City. The governor and I sat down with the president, and I said, Mr. President, I'm not sure what they're telling you about this problem, but this is a terrible problem that's playing out on the ground, that we need to fix our border, and we need to just stop allowing people to come into the country with no destiny. We don't know what we're doing with them. And there was some that were coming here that were almost 6 months to a year, in some cases 2 years, without any work authorization. Like, what do you do with someone that cannot provide for themselves for that long period of time?
Well, what do you do?
We had to house them. We had to feed, clothe, house, educate 40,000 children, hold them into a shelter system, the complete package of what you would do for an adult that can't take care of themselves.
And so you tell the
problem with this conversation is that Eric Adams played the part. And as a person that covered this whole thing, and I do think the Biden administration should be impossible to hold them accountable for what happened throughout this migrant crisis. I mean, on every level and every way that you can slice this, I believe that they basically traded against the American people, but that's just my own personal opinion. Unfortunately for Eric Adams and the rest of the Democratic puppets, they actually played along with the Biden administration, didn't stand up for themselves, wound up being collateral damage. And as a person that covered this from the very beginning, I will tell you that one of the things that Eric Adams did was he kind of went against these Republican governors. He went against Republican Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida when they all banded together. They all decided that they wanted to send a National Guard and block off the borders and hold people accountable. And the Biden administration was suing and trying to open the borders back up and prevent Texas from keeping people in and out and all of that stuff. And they didn't care. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about the governor of Texas. As a matter of fact, what I seen from Eric Adams is he basically was going off on them and he was lambasting them instead of sticking by them, because that's what he's saying here that he wanted to do and that he was communicating to Biden. If that's what you was communicating over to the Biden administration, then why didn't you also say that publicly to the American people? Unless you were either A, in on it yourself, and then you had a change of heart, or B, you was just playing the people while at the same time playing along with the Democratic game that they was lying on us about. But either way, Eric Adams, you can't be serious in thinking that you completely absolved from the responsibilities that come along with saddling New York City and not aligning with Republican governors on this whole issue of the migrant crisis. It's just the truth.
What you would do for an adult that can't take care of themselves.
And so you tell the president and his aides this, and what do they say?
Basically, be a good Democrat, Eric.
Be a good Democrat?
That was the basic overall theme. One of his aides told me that, listen, this is like a goldstone. It'll pass.
Jesus.
Oh. It's like a gallstone, it'll pass.
Yes. It'll hurt now, but it'll pass.
Well, you pee it out then. Right. Why do you have to?
well
Thank
said.
God I've never had a gallstone.
And then what many people didn't understand, because people believe that, okay, you're down 170,000. We were able to cycle out of our care. We still have about 52,000 that are in our care. And they say, well, okay, the damage is behind you. That is not true. We took $6.5 billion out of paying for chronically absent students. We could have paid $200 million for. We could have paid for housing, older adults. The long-term impact of what's happening to New York, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, Houston, the long-term impact.
The reason that he named those cities, he named New York, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, and Houston is because those 5 mayors all banded together and went to Washington, and they all signed a letter, and they was all in on the illegal immigration and the migrant crisis. They were all in on it and aligning with the Democrat Party. And for some reason, they thought that they was going to get some kind of payout, some kind of help, some kind of assistance, some kind of levy, trampoline up the political ladder. Maybe if Kamala Harris won, they can become a part of her cabinet, something like that. They all believed, for some reason, that the Biden administration wasn't going to use them as collateral damage and was telling them to play their part, play their role, and do what you're supposed to do while sabotaging the United States of America. Every last one of those cities, all 5 of them, signatures was on that letter, and they was over there in Washington, and they was being played at the same time that they was playing the American people. That's what he's talking about.
Has yet to materialize what this crisis has done to our cities.
So what do you think that damage looks like long term?
It's a combination of things. We're facing, after COVID, we're dealing with a severe mental health issue throughout the entire country. But specifically here in New York, we have a substantial number of chronically absent young people who were just traumatized from COVID and other things. And they just stopped coming to school. If I had $200 million that I can go out and go find those young people and place them back on the correct course, I'm preventing the long-term problem. If you don't educate, you're going to incarcerate. That's the common denominator in all of our prisons, the lack of education. I could have put hundreds of millions of dollars in what I'm doing around dyslexia.
And you should have. You should have rejected being a sanctuary city. You should have advocated for closing off our borders. You should have aligned not across party lines, but for what was best for America. And they wouldn't have threw you under the bus and been investigating you with the Department of Justice right now. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Screening and other learning disabilities. So those $6.5 million that I didn't put into housing, I did not put into senior care. We're getting ready to excuse medical debt for New Yorkers that are dealing with severe medical debt. All of these dollars could have gone into dealing with the long-term fixes that we were projecting to correct.
And did you tell the White House that?
Over and over again, the impact of what these
and they
dollars.
Didn't seem to care at all.
It appears to me that there was a bigger focus on the national election and not what it was doing to the cities.
How did they think that this was going to help them in the national election? I'm just not going for that.
And we started to build a coalition of other mayors, because when I was standing alone talking about this, it appears as though that, well, Eric, why are you complaining and no one else is complaining? And then other mayors started to see what was happening in their cities. And I started meeting with the mayor of Chicago and Denver and other mayors and said, we have to be uniform around this issue.
It sounds like they treated you with contempt.
Again, I think they used the terminology, you were not being a good Democrat. I think that was their philosophy, that I was supposed to silently watch what happens to this city. And I love this city. This is a city that I gave my life to protect. And I was watching the erosion. We were getting almost 8,000 migrants and asylum seekers a week, 16,000 every 2 weeks. And we were being compelled by the Legal Aid Society to find them housing within a short period of time until we had to go back to court and fight that this humanitarian crisis is not what is normally someone has the right to have shelter.
Or we could have just closed off our borders and do what Trump is doing today, to where they don't even feel compelled to come over here anymore because they know they can't get away with it. If you are a leader, at some point, you got to stand up. You can't be a part of the go along, get along gang. You got to do the thing that's the best for your people, for your customers, for your constituents, for your shareholders, for everybody.
Within the city. And they were coming in 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. It was a constant overturn.
I'm just confused by why that's the responsibility of the taxpayers, the citizenry of New York, and your responsibility. Someone comes into our country illegally from another nation, not invited, here in violation of our laws, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they're dealt with? How does that work? Where did that responsibility come from?
I have no idea. It's a national problem. It should be a national price tag. They wanted to give us $138 million to a $6.5 billion price tag and wanted to reimburse us for a hotel room at $11 per hotel room. You can't get a doorknob in New York City for $11. It was just unrealistic, and it really, to bring people into the country without knowing where they are going to and what is their role, that's not a plan, that's chaos.
To bring people into the country, are you hearing the rhetoric? To bring people into the country. This is intentional. This is not just, oh my God, I'm going to figure it out. No, this is intentional, and we got to figure out why. Why? It's probably one of the most dangerous things that you can do is go down a rabbit hole to try to figure out why from people that don't want you to ask no more questions. But it's a huge price. It's a heavy price to pay from the taxpayers and from the people. And from the people that suffered, who lost their lives at the hands of some of these crazy people that came over here into the United States of America. But shout out to Eric Adams for definitely talking about it and telling about it and actually snitching on the Biden administration so that we can start to get some closure as Trump and Tom Homan start to get these people out of the United States of America. Let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. Make sure you tap into the Patreon link is in the description. Also, Teach Henley. 40% off your first order, 20% off of life. It's a phenomenal product. It absolutely is a phenomenal product. And tune into the Millionaire Morning Show in the after hours. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.